what is now our third presentation of the reopening plan. We're so glad you could make it and are very appreciative of you taking some time out of your evening to join myself and Ms. Vieira and Ms. Adams to go over the reopening plan and take the opportunity to provide us some feedback and ask your questions as we quickly are approaching the beginning of the school year. At this time on your screen, you should see public meeting reopening. If you can see that, great. Everything is working fine for you. And if you can hear me, great. That means that you can hear what's going on with the presentation. So a couple housekeeping things before we get started. I do have the ability to mute if needed. So if you, but if you could kind of monitor yourself for us, please, and work on making sure that you're muted, that's appreciative. It makes it easier for folks to hear the presenter. When we get to question times, we'll give folks the opportunity to unmute and to ask some questions. And the other that is in the chat window.
Yeah.
You can always ask questions in the chat window. We will ask those as they go along. That way we have, that way we can continue through the presentation and we get to everyone's questions as best we can. If there are longer questions or bigger questions that you've had that you don't want to ask in front of everybody,
I don't think we get video.
If you don't want to ask in front of everybody, or if you just want to have about a specific situation to maybe your situation, you are always welcome to email myself or either one of the principals.
About you online.
You can also send an email to covidinfo@salemcsd.org.
When we were trying to do Zoom, it said
The link will be available versus Facebook on the school calendar. The purpose of the meeting today is
that's there. So with that, I think that covers everything for us to go ahead and to get started. We're going to be starting with the elementary school tonight. So Ms. Vieira, it is all yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to those of you who are our repeat viewers. I appreciate you coming back again. I know we've done a lot of these, but I appreciate you coming in. And for those of you, your first time, this has been a plan that continues to grow. You know, there's new information every day, and we're just trying to keep up with it. And that's why we've done several of these forums, is just to try and keep you up to speed with some of the decisions and things that we're doing. So I'm not going to be overly extensive in my explanation, but if you have questions, please feel free to type them in the chat, and we will answer them as they come up if we can. So what will school look like at the elementary school? I have 3 major slides, and that's it. So the first slide that I have talks about instruction and what that's going to look like in our classrooms. And it is pretty straightforward. We are moving to the purple and gold days is what we're calling them. So it's going to be 2 days on campus, 3 days off of campus, where it will be remote learning. So there's your purple day, which would be, say, a Monday, Tuesday, and then the student would be home doing remote work on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Our gold students would be here on Wednesday, Thursday, and they would do remote on Friday, Monday, Tuesday. That's kind of the setup for it. Our pre-K is going to continue to be an AM, PM half-day program. Our kindergarten this year is also going to be a half-day program. Our thought process when making that decision was our younger students really need to be here when, for those foundational skills. That's really our goal. We want to see them every day as much as possible. We'd love to see all of them every day as much as possible. But for this, we figured they can be here those 4 days. It's a shorter day, it's a half day, and we can get as much to them as we can in that time. The focus of every classroom is really going to be on EL and mathematics. That is the foundational skills of the elementary school. And that's really what we're going to be working on predominantly, especially on the days that we have the students in our classroom. Pre-K, the state has come out and said that they want pre-K classrooms to be capped at 8 students in each session. So we have put a cap on of 8 students. I know that Amy Tift has been reaching out to families and having those conversations. So, but there are some people that are on a waiting list, and some parents have decided to go remote. So we're kind of taking it from there, and we'll talk about that as we move through it. We do have a self-contained program here at the elementary school. Those students will be attending 4 days a week. For obvious reasons, for services. We have reached out to some other families with students that might have IEPs that might be in need of some extra services. And it is definitely on a case-by-case basis. We are evaluating it through our education department and meeting as a team and discussing this with all of them that know the students best. So that's kind of what played into those choices. So if you have any questions about any of that, please feel free to either type it in the chat or to turn off your mic and you can ask the question. Okay. Next slide is student movement. This is a big one, and there's a lot of aspects to it. The student movement throughout our building, typically on a regular day, non-COVID, a lot of our classes actually flip-flop between teachers, ELA and math. So they get to move back and forth throughout the day. We're not going to be doing that this year. It's going to be the teachers that are going to be moving back and forth between the classrooms. This will minimize students going into different environments and being exposed to different kinds of germs. We're just really trying to minimize that. Specials are going to look a little different. PE, they will go and they will meet in the gym or outside, weather permitting, and be as active as they can. The nice thing is it is smaller groups. Our largest group is at 12 students. Our smallest, I think, is at 8. So we're kind of averaging around per class. So it's going to be really nice for those class sizes for that to happen. We're also looking at library possibly, because again, it's a larger room and smaller groups. So I think it's going to depend on the lesson. Otherwise it will be push-in, as will our art and music will be push-in. The counseling sessions, we have brought in a new counselor. We're really excited about it. And they will be getting the counseling that we provide through her. We've done the schedule again this year so that every class will have sessions with her, and she has several open sessions throughout her day for individual meets and group meets and things that she may need to do with individual students. I think everybody here knows and agrees that mental health is a big issue with all of this, and we want to make sure that we are supporting all of our students in every way possible. If that being said, a part of the lunches for this year, lunches are going to be in the classrooms, except for 6th grade. 6th grade being a transitional year, a big year where we know they're heading towards middle school and there's a lot going on. The middle school, the 6th graders will have one day where they do get to eat in the cafeteria, and the second day they will have a second session with our on-site counselor just to make sure that they're doing okay. A lot of changes in sixth grade, a lot of stuff going on there. So we just want to make sure that they're really supported and that we're prepping them for the coming year of moving to middle school where a lot happens. So we really want to make sure that that support is there. The floor markers and directional stairways. Dr. Glover has managed to procure some really cool stickers that have our Salem logo on them, and they're going to be placed every 6 feet throughout all of the hallways so that when we're up in the hall, we're moving, we are utilizing our social distancing, we're staying safe. We're going to have up staircases and down staircases so that there's no cross traffic. Again, we're just trying to keep everybody socially distanced and safe. So it's some simple things like that that we're trying to put into place. Playground and recess. Recess has been scheduled into every classroom. We're really excited about it because if you haven't seen the pictures, make sure you look on the website. The playground is amazing, and we definitely want to get our kids out there and onto it and get some fresh air and get to enjoy it. We have some protocols we're putting into place. Antibacterial before you go out there, antibacterial when you get off. We've talked about ways to clean the equipment out there, just trying to keep it as safe as possible for everybody, but everybody will have access to it. Bathroom is definitely something we are continuing to work on and develop. Limited amount of students in there. We had initially talked about possible schedules, but it's really hard to put a first grader on a schedule when they've got to go to the bathroom. So we're still kind of working on those protocols. It is something that, we're still trying to get feedback and ideas on of how to best manage that, but it's definitely looking better than it did 3 weeks ago. So I think we'll definitely have some options there. The pickup drop-off locations, I know Dr. Glover is going to speak to those a little bit later, but our overall view of it is how do we keep everybody safest? So we're going to be utilizing different entrances for different things. Bussers are going to come in and go out certain doors, walkers, drop-off, pickup, different doors, so that we're not all clustering in that archway, all trying to come in one door. We're kind of spread it out, and he'll talk to that in more detail as we go on. Will the playground be available for our kiddos to use after school hours? That's a really good question. Dr. Glover, do you want to answer that? Because after school is kind of limited at this point, so I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, by like after school hours, like after school day is done or on weekends, yes, it will eventually be available for folks. Right now, we're closed really because of construction back there for the amount of traffic and equipment and supplies that are there. Once we have right now the playground equipment itself is up, we still have to get the right drainage in and put put down the surface underneath the playground before it's really ready to go. We're also going to do some markings on the playground so folks have an idea of social distancing on the playground. It's a large playground. It's 12,000 square feet of playground. So there's a lot of space to be able to still have fun and be able to keep your social distancing. But we're going to work on putting some type of visual cue out there to help give folks an idea of how they can keep separated, but yet still enjoy the equipment.
Thank you. There was a question here. So if students are sharing desks between purple and gold days, what about their personal belongings? How are they going to keep clean given all 4 days, all class days are back to back? Great question, Deb. So we've been meeting, our BLPT team has been meeting, which is a mix of parents, PTA, aides, specials teachers, gen ed teachers, sped teachers, you name it, they've been involved, asking all these questions and kind of brainstorming on ideas. So one of the things that we've come up with is what a lot of the upper grades were using last year during the winter time is they were getting those big bags from, like shopping stores like Marshalls and places like that. And they would put all their snow gear in there. So one of the teachers came up with the idea of getting one of those bags for each of their students. The idea is to put it on the back of the chair. So when the student comes in with their backpack, their lunch, all of those things, it goes into the bag. It's attached to the back of their chair. If you remember, we only have 12 desks in a room, so there's plenty of room. So it's not like people will be tripping over this. So the student will have an individual tub, you might say, that will have all of their belongings in it. So at the end of their 2 days, those belongings will go into that bag while they put on their backpack, their coats, and then those bags will be put away, and the Gold Day bags will go out for those students the next day. In between those days, the cleaning crew will be coming in after school on Tuesday to do a deep cleaning of the classrooms, inside the desks, on top of the desks. Nothing will be left in the desks. It'll all be wiped down. Everything will be in those bags and put away. So the only person touching that stuff is that individual student. So that's kind of what we're doing for that. Let's see. Okay, next slide. Any other questions about student movement or anything like that, just before I do go to the next slide? When will schedule be released? So we literally just solidified everything. Everything works. I am waiting on letters from my teachers, welcome back letters, which will have everything in it that will be going out. So you'll know if you're purple and gold. You'll have that whole thing coming out to you. High school, when is high school releasing all schedules? Do you know, Ms. Adams?
Our goal is to have those out no later than the end of next week, but our target is we just need to do some balancing next week, Monday and Tuesday, and hopefully print them on Wednesday, mail them on Thursday-ish. So mid to late next week. By the end of next week, they will be in the mail.
That's our goal as well. So we have still had some requests from people coming in of, scheduling, and we just wanted to make sure that we're, supporting what the community needs. And, some kids needed to be on a Monday and a Tuesday, and we were able to accommodate that. So, so we're just finalizing those rosters for the classrooms, and then everything's going out. Okay, answered. Safety, temperature checks. Dr. Glover is definitely going to be addressing this later on in the presentation. I can tell you the plan is every morning, every kid coming in the building, every staff member, everybody will be screened. We're going to be extremely diligent about this. We've even talked about possible sweep during the middle of the day. If I'm out and about, I might have one of the scanners and just kind of go through and check. I don't have to touch anybody. It's just something that we can just kind of keep an eye on people. We really want to keep everybody safe. So we're going to do everything we can within that vein. Masks and social distancing. This is another one that I know Dr. Glover is going to be talking about as well. Lanyards are listed there because our PTA has graciously donated lanyards for every single student, pre-K through 12, with lanyards. They're Salem colors. They say, Salem safe, Salem pride, Salem proud. And the idea is that every student can attach their mask to their lanyard. This is huge, especially at the elementary level, because, a lot of them are going to be dropped. A lot of them will be lost. Some will want to exchange them. This will hinder that. There won't be as many lost masks. To share a mask, it's going to be a process to take it off of the lanyard. So we are hoping it will help deter that. It will stop lanyards from dropping on the bathroom floor, not lanyards, masks dropped on the bathroom floor. We want to keep our kids healthy and safe. So that was a great donation from them. We're really excited about that. It's limited students per classroom. We have cut everybody in half, basically. So, like I had said earlier, we range between 8 to 12 students per classroom, which is really nice because then our teachers can really focus in on the ELA and the math that we want them to, and help to fill any gaps that may have happened from, last March to, the start of the school year, we know we have some ground to make up, and we really want to make sure that we're doing that. So the smaller classrooms will definitely support that. Washing written here 3 times. I would put it on every slide if I could. It is huge. We are still working on ideas of how to have some kind of hand washing stations, maybe utilizing drinking fountains for that, because obviously we don't want kids drinking out of the drinking fountains. So we've been talking about some options for that. It's something we really just want to promote throughout the whole school. The classroom cleaning, there will definitely be daily maintenance. Teachers will have cleaning supplies. The maintenance crew will be coming in periodically, even throughout the day, cleaning and making sure everything is done. I mean, even now with the limited amount of people that we have on campus, I see them out in there throughout the day. They're wiping down door handles and walls, and they're just really trying to make it safe for anybody that walks through our doors, even the limited amount of staff that are here now. And I am confident that they will continue to do that as school opens. The thorough cleaning will definitely come in between groups. So when Purple leaves on Tuesday, they'll be coming in and doing a deep cleaning, and again on Thursday and Friday after the second group has left, and coming through and cleaning everything. Will they still do classes like ceramics? I know the high school, I believe, might possibly still be doing ceramics. That's a Miss Adams question. We will not be doing it at the elementary. We have a limited art schedule right now, which we're still kind of working on with our art teacher, what that might look like for some of our upper grades. The younger students will be in with art. The older kids will be doing an alternative for art. She already answered that. I didn't even say that. Sorry. Can a student bring their own hand sanitizer? Absolutely. If it's something that, they're comfortable with using what they have, that's fine. It's a part of their belongings in their little tub. And sure, there will be hand sanitizer on premises available for anyone and everyone. So we'll be sure to make sure that that is available, as well as, a mask. If a student loses their mask or they forget their mask, it happens. We will make sure to have that here on campus for everyone. We want to make sure that everyone's staying safe. Any other questions? It's a lot. We've shared so much information with all of you over the last few weeks. I know it's still a lot to take in, but that's what I've got. If there aren't any questions, I know Adams has a few slides that she wants to go through to kind of share what's going on with high school, and a lot of them are applicable to us as well, but I'll let her take over.
Good evening, everyone. We have a lot going on, and I see that there are some repeat viewers from last week, and we have some new viewers. So the high school has a lot of moving parts. The presentation last week that we had that was specifically for grades 7 through 12, I think had about 40 slides in that. I'm going to just hit a few of the highlights. So for anyone who's just joining in for the first time tonight, you can see some of the highlights of the instructional plan. I encourage you, if you don't have all your questions answered this evening, to either email me. On the website, the recording of that full presentation is available, as well as the slides show. So you don't necessarily have to listen to the whole recording. You could just go through the slides, and then you'll know if you want to hear an explanation from me, then you could just fast forward, I think, on the recording most likely. So just so you know, this is an overview, some highlights, but certainly we'll take questions. So first slide is just an overview of our schedule. So I did review last week in more detail that we would be taking our traditional 9-period schedule. Now in that 9-period schedule, there is a period for lunch. So we have 8 instructional periods in our day. So we're taking those 8 instructional periods, and we're going to have students rotate those through those 8 instructional periods over 2 full days. So as you can see here, this is called a block schedule. Those are 4 blocks. They are 83-minute blocks. This is a very general overview. There are some modifications to this, depending on if students attend full day, full classes every day for a week. So English usually meets traditionally for 40 minutes every day for 5 days. Those classes will be converted to 83-minute blocks. And if a student, for example, takes PE, normally they would take PE every other day for 40 minutes and maybe with a lab on the other day. So they would alternate between PE and chemistry lab or PE and chorus. Then those would be in 40-minute instructional periods. So there are some modifications that will be very clear on a student's schedule. This is just to give you an idea and an overview, and we will work with our students before school starts to make sure they understand and know where they should be on their in-person and remote days. The idea is that this will reduce the amount of transitions between class periods and have less time in the hallway where there is a lot of congregation and less opportunity to social distance. Also, it allows us to have time with our smaller groups of students. So this will allow us to have smaller class sizes. So we'll have purple and gold groups here. So as you can see, is similar to the elementary school. The purple students would attend in person those class periods on Monday and Tuesday, purple's in person. The gold students would attend those classes remotely. Then on Wednesday and Thursday, the purple students attend at home remotely their classes, and the gold students are attending in person. So what that remote instruction looks like will be a little different depending on the teacher and the class. But there will be some requirements for students to be checking in and engaging with their classes on a regular basis. So this looks a little different than in the spring when we were on 100% remote and attendance wasn't required. Check-ins weren't required. This is going to be a little different this year. New York State has it in their guidelines and does require it. And we feel that it would be beneficial to students to be actively participating in their classes according to their in-person schedule. Friday is a remote day for everyone. There would not be live instruction. There will be an attendance check-in into their homeroom class for the day, but they will probably have more independent work projects. This gives them opportunity for extra help periods. There will be remote extra help every day during what we normally call period 10. Teachers will have office hours online, and they will give more information about how that will work when they see them in person and in their course outlines. The other piece that is not on here, but I go into it in a little more detail on my other presentation, and I will be reviewing with students at our class meetings at the beginning of the year, is that we will have a extended period in the morning for 20 minutes before that block one starts. So block one will start around 8:26. There will be a homeroom period or a flex period, as we're going to call it. And so that will allow students to have staggered arrival. So now all of our students are coming in at the same time, trying to be in the hallways and at their lockers. So the students on their buses will get there at the regular time around 8 o'clock. Students who are getting dropped off or driving themselves will have, they need to arrive sometime between 8 o'clock and 8:20. This will allow them to have some time to come in, go to their locker, and not have a lot of congestion in the hallway. We'll also have bag breakfast available that they'll be able to eat in that flex period, and they'll have access to the internet if they don't have good access at home, so they can download instructional materials, email teachers back work, or submit it through Google Classroom. So we're trying, that's why we're calling it a flex period. There'll be a lot of flexibility to how they can use it, that period, in their classroom before their first block class. So Dr. Glover, if you can just go to the next slide. I just want to, I've talked about a little bit, this is just some of the highlights for people that might be tuning in later or just reviewing the slides. So the important piece again is what's going to be a little different are those remote required check-ins on those remote learning days. And again, we want to have continuity of learning. And what's important to remember is that we don't know if this is going to be part of the year or all year. And we do have, especially the 9 through 12 students, a lot of requirements for graduation. And we want to make sure students are keeping and staying on track. I know a lot of students who are working age also really maybe want to try to take the opportunity to work a little bit during the days or increase their time at their job to earn money. And that would not be allowed. Students are going to need to have that interaction with their teachers during the school day. So just be mindful that that is a lot different. Again, I know I already talked about it, but that's really something that we want to stress for our students to be successful. And finally, there is our self-contained 12-1-1 special classes. If your student is in one of those classes, you and your child knows that. Some people say, well, how do we know if we're in that class? You would know through the CSE process and through your child's IEP. If your child was in one of those classes, they would attend every day, Monday through Thursday, and then remotely on Friday. So a little bit more, just a few highlights on the next slide. For full-time remote learning. So we're getting a lot of questions about that. And we know that there are a lot of situations out there with students' health and or health of family members that makes this a very serious consideration of whether or not a student should stay home for 100% full-time remote learning. If you have that question, this is one of those slides that applies to both elementary and high school. If you have that question, please contact either Mrs. Vieira or myself to speak about that further. We want to make it work for you. We want to support you. There are going to be all the course expectations, the New York State standards, the requirements for Regents and CTE credit if a child goes to a BOCES, a CTE program. That's really important. So we want to make sure our student is set up for success, but also support the health and welfare of your family. And there are ways we can do that. But we do probably want to have a discussion to really weigh the options. Because again, attendance engagement with teachers daily is required even for full-time remote learners. And our idea is that for anybody that did need to be remote, that this doesn't mean you have to commit to that for the whole year. We would revisit that at the end of each quarter and really look at what the family situation is and whether or not the student would be able to return to that hybrid partial week in-person setting. So just let us know and we'll try to work with you. Just going to check it while we're going to the next slide, the questions. I think some of those have been answered. I'm sure Ms. Vieira is helping keep track of those for me. The last question, requesting a certain group when you don't know what group you're in yet. So there was a slide in our other presentation about all the things that go in, especially for the high school, to determine whether or not someone's purple or gold. Once a student is identified as purple or gold and those schedules go out, it's very hard to change that. So you saw on my earlier slide, purple students are Monday, Tuesday, gold students are Wednesday, Thursday. Everyone is remote on Friday. If you feel that there's a situation where you think you might need a certain schedule, either Monday, Tuesday in person or Wednesday, Thursday, we really need you to contact us. We had talked about this last week by tomorrow, so we could see if we could accommodate that. We're trying, all families are staying together unless you were requesting that your family not stay together. So what happens is we need to keep the numbers balanced. We literally are trying to keep the grade levels cut in half. That accommodates our class sizes of only 10 to 12 students, maximum in our classrooms at the high school. The capacity really safely socially distancing with the teacher and the students is about 12 students. So we need to keep our purple and gold groups even. And so what happens is if someone makes a request, so right now I have a student, if I have Karen in the purple group and her mother calls me and says, here's my situation, can we make it work for her to be on those gold days? I need to know if I'm going to put Karen in the gold group, I need to swap someone over to purple. So once, if Dave is the person I want to move over to purple because he's one of the only people left that I can move, if I've already told Dave he's purple, it's really difficult that he and his family have been planning their lives around being purple. It's going to be hard after the fact to switch that. So if you think you have a situation, you have a need, give us a call tomorrow, send us an email. We can talk about it. We do recognize there are extenuating circumstances and we will try our best to work with you, but it will be difficult once those schedules go out and people know their groups because we need to switch someone out. We can't just move someone to another group because it could put a class size at 13 or whatever the max capacity is of that room. It could be a different for elementary and certain special classes. And we can't go over that capacity so that we can keep it safe for both the students and the faculty and staff that are in those rooms. So you could certainly give us a call, Wendy, if you have a thought or question you think you might have a certain situation, and or send me an email and we could talk about that. So that's kind of how we're addressing it. We know it's a little tricky. But we'd rather ask ahead of time before the groups are set and put out there for people. So our final few slides talk about safety items. Some of these are repeating what Ms. Vieira already covered, and Dr. Glover will be adding a little more about some of these items. So I'm just going to give you a few highlights of things that we haven't talked about yet. I did mention our staggered arrival times. We will communicate those with students at the beginning of the year of what that will look like. Keep an eye on the district newsletter that will be coming out, I believe, either at the end of this week or sometime next week. You should be getting that. And that will have some details about one more parent forum for the high school. If you're interested, I wanted to do one after the schedules come out, once we get closer to school, see if there were any questions more specifically. And also I will be having grade level meetings. So I'll have a meeting for 7th and 8th grade, 9 and 10, and 11 and 12. So I can, as many students that can hopefully log in, that will be on Friday the 11th. If they can log into the WebEx, we can talk a lot about student expectations, some of these kind of new policies and protocols. And I will go over with them their options for arrival and some of the changes we have, such as backpacks. So we have limited locker access to maintain social distancing and congregation in the hallway. Students will be able to go to their locker first thing in the morning, at the end of the day, and before or after lunch. And this is, again, to reduce those opportunities for contact and congregation in the hallway. So in order to accommodate the fact that students can't go multiple times throughout the day, they will be allowed to carry their backpack, a backpack with them temporarily. This is only during our COVID restrictions. And once we can have full locker access, we will be rescinding the backpack permissions. But right now, we do recognize, that maybe students want to carry an extra mask, their own water bottle, those types of things. Because of some of the restrictions and guidelines. So we do want to accommodate that. There will be some parameters around and expectations around backpack use and how they are accessed in the classroom, where they are kept, those types of things. We're still working on that with the teachers, and we'll go over that with students at the beginning of the year as well. I will just say, that will be a privilege. So we want to make sure that we have some fair parameters, but that students are respecting those as well. We'll talk about face coverings in a minute. We have another slide for that. And I spoke a little bit about lunch in the cafeteria. All of the secondary students will eat lunch in the cafeteria and have full access. All the students in the district still have full access to meals if they want to purchase lunch instead of bringing their own lunch. And what we need to do is another feature of that block schedule is that allowed us to add a third lunch. So there will actually be 3 lunches instead of 2 lunches. And our maximum capacity for students socially distanced is around 40. So again, that's why those purple and gold groups are important, because I need to be able to have enough room in the cafeteria and those 3 lunches to also accommodate that every student can eat lunch in the cafeteria. And classroom cleaning, very similar to Mrs. Vera. We have that challenge of that students are switching classes most of the time every 83 minutes, but on occasion after 40 minutes, if they're having one of those what we call skinny classes of 40 minutes, those alternate days. So we're still working on that protocol and with Dr. Glover, and he may probably talk about that a little bit more in one of his later slides, but there will be a protocol for cleaning the desks between the classroom changes and throughout the school day, and obviously between those purple and gold groups. We're also I know Dr. Glover has a technology slide, but I will say that we do have a bring your own device. We will allow students to bring their own device and use it. We've set up some Wi-Fi for them. Dr. Glover will give a little more information. I don't want to steal his thunder, but I know sometimes it's come up around this time. So you will get more information about devices coming up. And then we have some plans that if students are using, if they don't bring their own device, if they're using a school Chromebook, they would be assigned that during the day, and it would only be there so that they wouldn't be sharing Chromebooks all day long. So we're working on protocols for that. And so we'll talk about that a little more coming up towards the end of Dr. Glover's district section. So I think the last slide here is related to face coverings. Mrs. Vera, please feel free to jump in. So we had our forums last week. We've been working with teachers and student feedback. We had a student forum for secondary a few weeks ago. And throughout that process, we've received some feedback that we needed to be a little more specific about when face coverings can be removed. So we had some feedback that was a little unclear about when students would have their masks off, and obviously everybody has safety on their mind. And so we wanted to clarify that. So we've reworked this a little bit. We wanted to share it with you. And I will read it because I know we have some phone-in callers. So I want to make sure that people are aware of just some of the changes to the language. So students and staff are required to wear cloth face coverings at all times, including in hallways, restrooms, and on buses. So that is important. As soon as a student steps on the bus, they are required to have their face covering on. The bus is considered part of kind of the school facility and school day. So please work on that with your children, that expectation. Even though we're working on social distancing on the bus, students are getting on and off the bus regularly. There is more movement. The driver is not able to fully focus. The driver's watching the road as well. So it's not able to focus on, is everybody exactly socially distanced? So we need to have that extra precaution of face covering on the bus for the entire time. Students may remove face coverings during meals and breaks during instruction unless social distancing cannot be maintained. The frequency and timing of breaks will be determined by the teacher and outlined in class procedures and expectations for each class, course, and section. So we recognize that that was a little unclear, that it appeared that as soon as a student could come in the class, that they would be able to take off their face covering for the entire 40 or 83 minutes. And we do want to have an environment where masks are encouraged and worn for the time that they are in the building. But we also do recognize there is going to be a need for breaks. That's going to look different depending on the size of the class, the layout of the class, how long the class is. So the teacher will work on that. A lot of time, most of the teachers work, even in the elementary, work on their class and up with class procedures and expectations. So we expect that those will be communicated with you. If you have questions about that, please feel free to contact the teacher and or myself or Mrs. Vieira or Dr. Glover, and we will be happy to go over those protocols with you. If you're concerned that they're not being followed, of course, we would want to know about that. But I will tell you, our teachers are very mindful of this. They also felt it was important to have a consistent expectation, but also to be clear in communicating that with you. So I think you can count on them that they are going to be your partners in this. So please make sure you're communicating with them because we're all kind of new to this and working together. And again, we talked about this last time, that students are encouraged to wear their preferred face covering, and it is subject to the dress code policy. So recognizing that there are some really interesting and fancy face coverings out there, and while they might be fun in certain settings or but they may not be appropriate for the classroom. And so we have to remember that they should be appropriate and not a distraction or disruption to the educational environment. So they are subject to the dress code as just as everything else that a student would be wearing for the day. The other thing is we encourage you to work with your children on wearing face coverings for a fair amount of time. It's really going to depend on how long they have to wear for, but if your child is, you know, that it's about a 20-minute bus ride, that's where I would start. There could be 30, 40 minutes at times where students will have them on. So think about the bus ride, walking into school, getting into your classroom. You may not be able to be permitted to have a break as soon as you walk in the building. So it's important to build your students, young and older students. We even have been working as adults and teachers. We're used to wearing those temporarily to go into a grocery store or Stewart's or different places where we're in public. But think about, have you really been wearing them for extended times and or your children? Because we're learning, all of us that have been trying this out, that there's different fabrics, different types of masks that work better than others for each person. And so what I like might be different than what works for Mrs. Vieira. And we want to make sure that your child has what they're comfortable with. And so really, I've been encouraging the students when I've been interacting with them is practice wearing it around the house. Yes, your family might think you're silly or goofy, but it's important. Maybe wear them for an hour, you know, before dinner or after dinner, and the whole family puts them on and wears them together. Practice speaking with your mask on, speaking when a lot of times you're in the grocery store, you're not saying a lot, you're not having a lot of conversation. When you're speaking and breathing and communicating, sometimes the different fabrics and masks make a difference for you. So it's really important to work with your children on that. And if you forget, your child doesn't have one, then we will have those accessible. We will provide them at school. And we do have to say this, you know, if a child is going to refuse or to comply after some reminders to wear their mask, they will be, they could be disciplined for noncompliance, or we may need to call you and ask you to come and pick up your child, and they could return when they're willing to comply with the classroom or school rules and wear their face covering during the times. So it's really important that students understand that there will be break times, but they must comply with the expectations until break time is available. So please, if you have questions, let us know. I see some questions popping in. Parameters for length of mask breaks. We haven't really dictated, I think, what will constitute a mask break. I don't know, Dr. Glover, if you want to touch upon that. I think it's really going to depend, or Mrs. Vieira, I think it depends on really the situation and the environment. You know, a mask break, I think really the biggest thing is why break is included is a mask break is not 83 minutes while you're sitting in class. It's a time where you can take it off, but then you're expected to put it back on. I don't know if we really need to define the minutes. I guess we'll be able to talk about that. Well, I think we would be interested in hearing feedback on that from students and families and teachers as well. but we have not defined a mask break currently. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add that, Karen or Dr.
I
Glover.
think when I look at the elementary and the conversation I've been having with my teachers, when we look at an elementary classroom, it's definitely different than a high school classroom. So for us, there is a lot of movement even within a classroom. So our thought process is, if you're sitting at your desk and you're learning and all the desks are socially distanced, they're spaced the way they should be, you can have your mask off. If you get up to go across the room, the expectation is you'll put your mask on because you're obviously passing by someone, you're not socially distanced. A lot of people say, oh, that's a lot, it's going to be a lot to learn. This is new for everybody. It's going to be a part of the rules of the classroom. It's just a matter of getting used to those expectations. And we know our first few weeks, that's going to be a lot of what we're doing. When we're in the hallway, when we go to the bathroom, we wear our masks. But when we're at lunch, you're eating, you're not wearing your mask. But when you're done eating and you're going to sit and talk to a friend, you might want to put your mask on, unless, of course, you are socially distanced. So I don't think there's any set time on that. I think it is basically kind of on the ebb and flow of the class and how things are processing through in each moment.
Right. I think the other thing I would say is, so at the high school, you think about in that flex period in the morning, that's probably not going to be a great opportunity for having a mask break and being able to take off your mask because students are coming in and out. There's a lot of traffic going on. Although a student who's eating breakfast would remove their mask and then put that back on. But if you're in class and maybe students are taking a quiz, everyone's seated, then that would be an opportunity that students could take off their mask and have a mask break. And again, the conversation I've been having with teachers is these are the things they're going to talk about on those first couple of days of class when they're outlining their class expectations and procedures. They're going to talk about, all right, here's when I expect you to have your mask on. Here's when it'll be okay to have a break. So I think it really looks a lot like, it's hard to put a parameter on that. I think it's going to depend on the grade level, the age of the student, the type of class, the conditions of the classroom. So I think at this point, we're going to see how it goes with the teachers. And if we need to come back to that and have more parameters around mask breaks, then we could definitely revisit that and talk about it. But we want to have flexibility to have those breaks. But also really, the message is if you don't need a break or it's not an appropriate situation, we really want you to have your mask on. It's safest when everyone has their masks on. BOCES. Sarah, do you have a specific question? Feel free to unmute if you would like about BOCES quickly. We don't really have much new news since last week. I'm not sure if you have a specific question. Or type in the chat, feel free. BOCES, basically, we're still working on, I spoke with Mr. Davis, Mr. Donlin. They're working on getting us permissions if students want to drive. There'll be a separate form for that. And we did just recently get the schedule for students. So we'll put something together for what group the students are in, but that is really the updates on BOCES. Not too much new there. I think next week we'll definitely learn more, and we will be communicating that out, as well as I think BOCES will be sending some information out. And I thought that BOCES is going to be having something online as well. So check over on that Wish We BOCES site, and I will type in the website, and they may have some information about their CTE programs on there. I'll type in, when I'm done with my presentation, the link, the web address for that, for you to touch base as well. You might be able to get some information, or contact the building principal over there as well if you have a specific question about the BOCES program. No, BOCES, they have communicated with us about the starting date. They know we're starting on the 14th, and they know our students won't be coming until the 14th. A lot of the schools in our region that attend that BOCES are also starting instruction on the 14th. DL classes, work the same way. Any classes we'll work with Mr. Zarzicki on which DL classes, that's distance learning classes that you may be scheduled for, and those would be on your schedule if you are in a host class that we're hosting and sending out to another school, or if you're in a receiving class. So those will still work the same way. Right now, all the schools are coordinating their schedules so that we can see what we can offer out to other schools and they can offer into us. So if you have more questions about that, contact me or Mr. Zarzicki. Any other questions before I turn it over to Dr. Glover? If you have more questions, just type them in the chat and I can answer them, or we can answer them at the end.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Adams. Good evening, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. So my part of the program here is to really kind of walk you through everything that surrounds the academics. So there'll be transportation, there's some safety, there's about some meals, there's about, the screenings that we're going to do, and it's kind of all the requirements the school now has in place, but all the schedules that we have in place that we need to kind of put together. Most of your schedules, Michelle, are going to be coming out sometime next week, whether that is elementary or high school. They should have everything ready for you then. So looking at transportation first, I'm going to highlight here when we're talking about, I want to highlight these items here. And is to reduce the population density, is promote social distancing, and is promote respiratory and hand hygiene. Well, in this context, we're going to talk about transportation. These 4 items in these 3 bullets are really the focus of maintaining a health and safety school environment as it relates to COVID-19. The population density piece of that is making sure we don't have too many people in one place at any given time. The social distancing part of that is making sure of the people we do have together that we are far enough away from each other where we aren't sharing things we don't want to. And the respiratory hygiene and the hand hygiene are the face coverings and the hand sanitizer and the hand washing pieces to help prevent the spread of anything with COVID-19 or the cold or the flu or any other germ that might be floating around in school. And hygiene is the cure-all for those things. But when it comes to the buses, the blue and gold separation will also apply to transportation. So on your Mondays and Tuesdays, your purple group will be on will have the opportunity to be on a bus. We are still working on the exact how that's going to split. For it works, there are 2 different models that are into play. This is not the exact size of our bus. It is just here to give you a model and an example. One model possible is the one that is up top, and the one that is up top is basically 1 student per seat at the far edges of the bus. That's there. This is going to be mask requiring. We are maintaining social distance here. However, we are not maintaining social distance from the front to the back of the bus. That would be okay. So without that social distancing, face covering is definitely needed. The bottom model is more of the social distancing in place, where you can kind of see the circles they have listed there. That's our 6 feet away from everybody. Now, we still want masks on buses because we're going to have people moving back and forth. And whenever we have people moving, we want to make sure we have masks on for folks. That's there. So we're looking at these 2 models, and it's going to depend on our transportation for what we're going to be able to do. In a normal big bus, it's just 66 people, it will be anywhere between 22 or 11 students, depending on which model gets followed. Now, in the regulations, it does allow for siblings to sit together on the bus. So we can put people from the same household in the same seats, but it doesn't save us from having to make sure we are distancing people at the same time. So if you have 2 students we have 2 children, those children can sit together, but then we need to social distance from those 2 children. If you have 3, same applies, and it's from there. So yes, siblings can sit together on the bus. So when we're going to talk about drop-off and pickups from school in a minute. But when we're loading and unloading the bus, we're going to promote that social distancing. We're going to be wearing our masks. We're going to be trying to load the bus from back to front. And then when we unload, we're going to try to unload from front to back, depending on where the locations of the kids are. We are going to be using 3 entrances this year to drop students off to there. We're also going to make sure when we have the entry that we're going to have some hand sanitizer available for folks after they get off the bus. So they can hand sanitize. When we're done with the bus and it's run, it will go back to the bus garage, and we will actually be disinfecting each bus after the run every day. So every time we go through and we disinfect it, when we have a run, we'll disinfect that bus so it's ready for the next run and should be safe for the next group of students. So in dropping off, so we picked up your student from your home. If you're wishing to transport your student, you are certainly welcome to, and we welcome that. That helps with the number of our social density on our buses. Please let your principals know if you wish to do that so we can keep track for those cases. So if whether you're dropping off or the bus picks up your child, you come to here. Now we're going to change our bus system a little bit this year, and the biggest change is at the drop off, because we are going to be using the bus loop for parent drop-off this year. So if you were to bring your child into school, you will bring your child up down East Broadway, you will turn into the bus loop, which was once a no-no. You will bring your child down this bus loop, you will drop your student off here, where we will go ahead and give them a health screening and then get them into the school building for the day. You will follow the rest of the route, and you will be able to go on your way for the rest of the day and dropping off your child. In the high school, same thing, except it's going to be at the Circle Drive. Now, the tricky part is going to be that both buses and parent drop-offs are going to be using the same lanes. So if you have an elementary student, buses and cars will be in the same route. We are going to help with some traffic control. You may get to see me out there playing traffic control along with some other things, especially toward the beginning. So where we will have parents drop their kids off here in the breezeway, the buses will drop off here back toward the gym entrance, where they will go through the same process that kids will go through here. At the high school, for those students who drive, this isn't going to be a staff parking, it's just going to be student parking. That was a change we made recently. We'll be able to drop off here at the Circle, buses will drop off here at the Circle, and then folks will be able to drive and go on their way. Very big change right here. And that, this is going to be the staging area for our buses, because we can't put the buses in here if we're going to have parents come and drop off their students using the bus loop. So we're going to ask no one to park in this area so we can get our buses in that area. And then that way we can kind of maintain and traffic control, but this is in the morning only. Yes, we're actually looking at parents staying in their car when they drop students off. If you happen to be a walker and you walk your children to school, the same thing, we're going to ask you to walk to a spot and then leave them with us, and they will be in our very capable hands to be able to move forward. That really leads us to major change number 2, and that's we're not walking our students into the classrooms. Part of the regulations is limiting the number of visitors in the school building, to really limiting it to students, faculty, and staff. There will be times where we'll need to have parents in the building for various reasons, but we're required really to limit the number of visitors into these school buildings, even kindergarteners, even our pre-kindergarten kids to there. Everyone will be okay. We'll be in our capable hands. Ms. Vieira will be there to help, and we will make sure everyone gets where they need to. The kindergarteners, the pre-K students, when they enter the building here, are only going this far. They're in this area, if I remember correctly. And for the kindergarten students, they're here in this main hallway this year, remembering that the primary school is closed because of the construction project. So all of our elementary students are going to be in this part of the school building this year, and all of our high school students are going to be back here for the year. So this is our drop-off pattern: bus loop for parents and buses, Circle for parents and buses. Our faculty and staff will park back here, and our student drivers will park over here. High schoolers will enter through the Circle, parent drop-offs through the breezeway, bus drop-offs toward the gym entrance. For pickup, it's going to look much more familiar to you. Kate, I see your question. I'll get to you right in a second. Notice that the no parking sign is gone, but also notice the bus loop is still into place. So when it comes to the pickup times, we are going to we'll have a schedule for you about this is when we are going to release which students when. So when we have pickups, the buses are actually going to go into this loop in the afternoon. We will ask cars not to be in this loop in the afternoon. Cars will be able to return out front, but we're letting cars back out front because all of our walkers and all of our riders are all coming out the front doors. Our 5th and 6th grade students are going to be here. They will come out the front here. Our pre-K kids will come out. Our kindergarten kids and our pre-K through 4 kids will come out the front. They can walk directly to you out into this area where we are being socially distanced. And then once you have your students, you are free to go, maintaining your socially distanced, and go from there. That for the drop-off, which is much more familiar than what we are used to doing, what we'll do in the morning. For the morning pickup, for the morning pickup time for kindergarten, we are working on the bus routes. Kate, if you're talking about picking up from your home, we are working on those routes, and we'll have that time here shortly, and to be able to communicate to everybody. If you're referring to like drop off for the drop off time, we'll have those times more specified as well as we finish working on our staffing. Remember that kindergarten time is there are going to be 2 sections. So Ms. Vera, help me here if I miss this one, but the kindergartners in the morning will be at the same time as every other bus run does. The midday pickups will start somewhere around 11. Does that sound right?
10:30. You
Okay.
mean leaving here or picking up for the afternoon session?
Yeah. So in that midday run, that's when that will be, is if you have an afternoon session for your kindergarten. So we'll definitely get that information out to folks when we have those available. Parking pass forms are going to be available soon. They'll be available online. Ms. Adams, you want to provide any more information on that?
No, I think that about covers it. There'll be, next week, we'll have the information online. You can pick up the forms, print them out, and we would ask that no in-person submissions right now, so you can either mail them in. We could probably maybe put a drop box outside, but just with the construction, there's very limited access to the office in the building right now, and it makes it difficult. And then in addition to the challenges of COVID, to do those in person. So what we'd like to do, you could scan them back to us. You could mail them in, and then what we'll do is Mrs. Patrick will create the parking tag, and we'll give it to students on their first day in their homeroom flex period, or shortly thereafter if they're just turning in their paperwork on the first day. So nothing's gonna happen if they drive on the first day and they don't have their parking pass, but we would really like to get that settled over those first few days. And I will go over that with them in their first meeting on when we have our class meetings on that Friday. Hopefully most of the students will be logging in. So we'll explain, they're used to that being their parking lot, so they'll all get to park in the same place. It's just that whole kind of how to register their car so we know who's out there.
Great, thanks, Ms. Adams. Ms. Vieira, just looking for clarify about the class hours for the morning kindergarten.
So the morning session is gonna mirror what pre-K has always done. It'll be 8 to 10:30. And then the afternoon session will be 12 to 2:20, 2:25. That usual time frame that we've done for pre-K, that's what the kindergarten will also be doing.
Okay, great, thank you. So to the question of can students bus one way and have a parent drive one way? Yes, yes is the answer to that. We just need to know in advance so we can make sure we can maintain our bus counts. I think another challenge we're going to have this year with the busing is the amount of flexibility we're going to have in what we can do in changing our routes and our bus routes for the same reasons Ms. Adams had talked about with the flexibility in the purple versus gold groups. Every time we make a move in one place, it impacts other places and other moves. And in some cases, having one additional student in another bus will create an entirely new bus run or an additional bus run that we may not have an extra bus to do. So transportation is going to be, it's going to be a challenge to there, but we will work through things as best we can. So just as to re-summarize on the pickup, the drop-off, parents will drop off in the loop or in the circle in the mornings, in the afternoon. The pickup will be out front of the building, and then the loop in the circle will be for buses only. We will have signage up. We will have people out there to help kind of adapt to the changes, and we'll make changes as they go along. We're confident this will help with safety of students. If we all drive carefully, maintaining safety for drivers as well. So now that we've gotten the students here, before does the school have a preference at this time for reducing density on morning or afternoon? Not at this time. We don't have one or the other. We're still looking at them. They actually literally, we've taken each bus run and broken it down. It sits next to me on my table. So we're still working at that. Just call your principal and let them know. And there might be a preference on, at the kindergarten level, there might be a preference there, or the principals might have a preference, and let them know. And we will work with that from there. But thanks for asking it. It's a very nice offer. So we got everyone here. They walked here, or you brought them here, or we brought them on a bus, and now we got to get them into school. So coming into school, we're required to do some health screenings for everybody. Health screenings for adults looks different than health screenings for kids. So when adults come into the school, like teachers and aides and secretaries and principals and superintendents, we have a questionnaire we're going to have to complete, and we have to have a temperature check done, and we have to do that every day. For students, it is only a temperature check. And that temperature check, we're going to have 3 kiosk systems set up where it's literally the student will put their hand out underneath a light beam. That light beam will register the temperature and tell us if that student's temperature is below 100 or above 100, and then that is it. It's that simple. And with the quick check, if the temperature is below 100, then great. That student moves on and they carry on their day. If that student comes up with over 100, we will take that student and get them to an isolated area for the nurse to do another temperature check to make sure we didn't have a false positive. We understand that false positives are possible, as are false negatives. So we'll be double checking to that. I can tell you the equipment that we purchased to do this does take into account things like the environment that it's around. So it's a more accurate read than some of the other non-touch thermometers that are there. So we have a student come in, temperature check's great. They go on their day, and we have a wonderful day at Salem Washington Academy. If they had the failed screening, we go to that isolation area. If we'll reconfirm that temperature, if that temperature is 100 or greater, we will be in contact with you for you to come get your child, because we will not be allowed to keep them here. And we're going to advise you to go to your doctor for possible testing and for an examination. We will also be contacting the health department as we're required to do so. In the event we have to worry about contact tracing and any other requirements the health department may have on us, and they will want to know about the situation with the child for over 100. So that will happen if we have a failed screening. Now, to help us with this, we would greatly appreciate if you would do your own mini health screening check at home first. So if you're at home and before you get on the bus, you can take a quick temperature, and if your child is fine, then great. We look forward to having them. But if your child is ill or has over 100 fever, we would like to know that too, so we can let folks know that prevents having a student with a fever come into school and have to go through the protocols and then having exposure happen with kids on a bus and then kids on kids at school. But we do know that there are times where we have a student will come to school and we'd be perfectly fine in the morning, and they will get here and by lunchtime they do not look good at all. And we go to the nurse and we take that temperature, and that temperature is over 100 degrees. Or so in the case where this happens, where we have a student who doesn't look ill, we'll contact the nurse. We'll move to the student before moving the student. We'll get the student isolated. We'll take that temperature, make sure it's set, and then we'll follow the same protocol that we did with the failed health screening. Isolate, confirm the temperature, family contacted if we need to about going to the doctor, advise to get a possible test, and then we will let the health department know. So this is what happens when we get kids into school, or once they get into school, that how we are going to test them. So we go through that process, and it's your child, and you go to the doctor, and you go and you get the COVID-19 test, and that test comes out negative, and we're all very happy, and that's great. According to our current guidance, we need documentation from the healthcare provider that the student's cleared to come back to school. We need evidence of a negative COVID test, and basically the symptoms have to be gone for at least 24 hours. By the time the test comes back, it would be long after 24 hours that are there. If you go to the doctor, you take the test, and it becomes positive, it is positive, that's there. We will need to know that too, and the health department will let us know. The student won't be able to return at least for 10 days after the symptoms have started, which is basically that quarantine period. Fever-free for 3 days without intervention, which means we haven't given any aspirin or Advil or Tylenol or anything to help prevent, that helps suppress any temperatures, and at least 3 days where symptoms have improved. Now, notice I have an asterisk here that says subject to change. There is currently conflicting language on how this gets handled between what schools are required to do and what our county health departments are required to do for the community. They are working on a kind of a harmonization document to give us some better clarity on this. We don't have it yet. Once we have it, we will change this and we'll set the protocol up and we will let people know what that protocol is, which is why we are subject to change. Because if you remember from March, things changed really quickly. We expect some changes here as well. Before I jump into tracing and testing, are there any questions about the health screening process? If you have them, go ahead and type them in. I'll pick them up as we're moving along, and we'll keep moving. So testing and tracing. I will let you know that the school district is not doing any testing. It is not recommended to us by the guidance that's provided to us by the state. There's also some issues that would be problematic for the school to do the testing on our own. Any testing that we do will be coordinated with the Washington County Department of Public Health, and they will work on referrals for families. At one point, the county was doing 50 tests a day. The state has asked them, at one point, it backed them off to like 20 to 30 a week. There has been issues with getting tests. There's been issues with getting materials, and there's been issues about processing those tests. Before this week, I heard of one test getting turned around within 2 days, and that's the fastest I've heard. Generally, we've heard it's taken 2 weeks to get any test back. The county has also been referring people to their family doctors because the family doctors can get the tests quicker and seem to get the results more quickly as well. So our most expedient way is really the protocol we have set up, and that's having you to your family doctor, having the family doctor do that test, and then working through the doctor's office to get that result in the most expedient manner. So which is why we're not doing testing, but we'll cooperate with the health department to make sure that happens. The part we will do is we are doing, and that's the contact tracing to help the county health department with that piece of it. So, we have that a 6th grade classroom or a 7th grade classroom. You can pick your own grade level. And we have that student who by 2 o'clock all of a sudden went from being great to not so great. Find out the next day that, yep, ended up going to the doctor. Yes, ended up having a fever. The school then will cooperate with the health department and making sure that they know everyone who that child has been in contact with. So we can be in the contact tracing to see who might have to stay in quarantine and be able to reach out to families and let them know that they have been possibly exposed to COVID-19. A caveat I do add into here is that we do have HIPAA protections to worry about. So if we do have a case that requires us to go in, like to close school, which has happened here over the summer with a couple places, and as schools have opened up across the country, I'm sure you've seen it in the news, or if it requires us to move to just straight remote instruction for a longer period of time, we will absolutely know that. But what we won't be doing is be identifying anybody individually to protect their privacy rights. But if it ends up impacting the instruction of the school, we will let folks know. Just that had been a question for some folks, and we wanted to make sure you were aware of that. So to kind of try to help prevent some of the contact pieces, there's already a lot in place, but cleaning and disinfecting are going to be our front lines. Our custodians do a wonderful job here. They make our building shine, and now it's going to smell disinfected on top of that. Once we have the schedule set for the schedule for both the elementary and secondary, we will be building our cleaning and disinfecting schedule based off the room use. Some things we are going to be doing regularly, like every hour and a half, like cleaning bathrooms, cleaning high contact areas like locker doorknobs, door handles, desktops, and etc. Large group areas will be disinfected, like between lunches, for example, buses after bus runs I mentioned. We will be cleaning the playground. That only requires cleaning by the regulations. It is not a disinfecting piece because it's outside. And then, of course, we will be doing some purple and gold groups as well. That time between purple and gold will be a little bit more intense than some of the daily cleaning pieces we will do. That once a week cleaning, we will be getting much more serious. And actually, we have a couple foggers. We'll be fogging classrooms for the disinfectant everywhere. So we can sit over the weekend, and then any germs that may be lying around we can get. So we have a clean surface when we come back to Monday, the following Monday. So this is the basics of the cleaning schedule. It's going to be a very big lift, but we have a plan. And once we can have a schedule, rest assured that we are going to be a very clean and disinfected building as we open and continue through our school year. Any questions on cleaning, disinfecting, testing, or tracing to hear? Because I'm about to switch gears to food. So before we leave the topic, I just give you one more chance or another chance to put any questions in. Okay, if you do have questions, continue to put them in the chat. That will be great. And we will keep moving forward and talking about meals. This is the last slide. And I gave you the teaser and the thank you. So in the meals, it is going to be a little bit different than this last spring. Last spring, school had a district requirement to make sure everyone was fed. Whether you are a full paying family or whether you're a free and reduced family. So it didn't matter. That's where the buses came out. We went out to everybody. We delivered the meals to everybody. A lot of families were using it as kind of set some normalcy for kids and getting their day structure set. We were happy to help in that endeavor. And then everyone got fed. It is going to be a little different this time. Free and reduced lunch students will still have that same type of access. However, for a full paying family, we're going to need to know if you want those meals remotely. We still have an obligation to provide you with a meal. But if you're a paying customer, you will have to mark you off as paying for that meal that's there. When we're doing it remotely for the meals, we will likely be sending things out kind of in a bulk. So if you are a purple group and you're in school Monday and Tuesday, we will send you home Tuesday with a meal Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. If you are here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll send you home with meals for Friday, Monday, Tuesday. Wendy Carey will be coordinating all this. You can give her a call with questions and to let her know. so we can help get the remote meal piece coordinated as the school year starts. We are looking to reduce the amount of cash exchange. We're not quite going full cashless, but we're looking to get as cashless as possible. So we're going to ask folks to bring in checks or money orders to put money on their accounts, or actually recommend that folks move to the online payment. It's a new website. It is the same company. If you remember My School Bucks, it was bought by someone else. This is the new website for it. If you go to our school website at the cafeteria, you click on the cafeteria link, it'll bring you to the cafeteria page, and this information is there. So you haven't lost any money off your account. If you were on the My School Bucks, it's been transferred over. We've already talked about the social distancing in the cafeteria. We've talked about classrooms and elementary for lunches there, and high schools going grab and go for breakfasts. Then lunch in the cafeteria, of course, socially distanced. We're looking at about 40 kids at a time in the cafeteria at a time. And I just referred to how we're doing meals remotely. Of course, as the rules change, we will adjust this just like we did last spring. And we will keep everyone as updated as we possibly can. With that, we are to the thank you slide. So if anyone has any questions at all for any three of us, now would be a great time to do that. If you've ever called in and aren't able to chat, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question and we'll answer. Feel free, please, to type anything into a chat and we'll answer what we can.
Hello.
Hi there.
Hi. I actually have a quick question. In previous calls, you have said that the tablets are going to be available, or the computers are going to be available for the kids. Do we know what grade level? Is it going to be all grade levels first on up, or just for high school kids?
We are starting at the high school level with those because of the level of the amount of work that they are going to have that is going to be online. And we're going to work to stretch it into the elementary levels as far as we can go. We think we have enough to get to everybody, but we're working on those numbers now. If you have a need in your family for a computer, like if you don't have devices in the home, you only have a cell phone that you use for a device, or if you have more than one child in your family and need an additional device so both of your children can do their work, I'd ask you to please contact your principal to let them know, and we will make arrangements for you to get a device.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else who'd like to unmute and ask a question, or there? Are the private public meetings available online? Yes, they are. If you go to our main web page, along the left-hand column, there is a series of boxes and they tell you where the COVID presentations are. You can click into there and they lay out specifically what each one is. If you get there and have problems finding anything, please send us an email, give us a phone call, and we will help get you there. But everything's right off our website. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, so if you do have any other questions, I just typed in, that is if I can get my fingers out of my own way, what I just typed into the chat is the generic email for COVID info at Salem. If you type in any questions to there, it will come to us administratively. We will all get it, and we will get back to you with any questions or answers if it's a generic question. If you have a specific question, please feel free to contact your principal directly or myself directly for a district level question, or if it's a principal question, and we can get you those answers to help with anything specific or just general questions about where things are going. We do have a newsletter coming out soon. I'm planning another robocall for Saturday about opening day, which will be the 14th for students. You heard it here first. Yes. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate you coming in and spending some time with us and to learn about what's going in the school, provide your feedback and offer some questions. So you have kind of understand what's going on at the school and go from there. Should students inform principals if they do not need a Chromebook because they would be using their own? Yes. If you could do that, please, that would be great. We will have the network set up. So if a student brings their own device, that they could get onto the network here. They will have to follow school rules on it because it is on the school network and all the filtering will be in place. I guess I should mention here too, along with the additional devices we're working on and the bring your own device, we are going to be pushing the Wi-Fi signal into the bus garage parking lot. So for students who need to come down to school to check email or to upload assignments or to download assignments, they'll be able to do that in the parking lot here once the school year gets started. And we'll mark it off. We're going to work on marking it off so you can see where the best signals are. It's there to help with the technology pieces. We're also doing some work with some community groups about the possibility of trying to get devices and internet access to somewhere out in Hebron, somewhere out in Shushan, and possibly in at least another site here in Salem, along with some additional assistance. So if parents need help with technology, that we can find you some resources there. The school will be doing more in that regard as well. That was kind of the big concerns last year when we kind of got into this, and it's like we were all learning how to do it. We're going to have some more resources available and hopefully more access available this year, so we can make this remote learning piece go more smoothly. Okay, Ms. Vieira, Ms. Adams, and I will hang on the line here in case anyone has any questions as we wrap up. Thank you again so much for participating in tonight's community meeting about the reopening schedule. Again, please don't hesitate to get a hold of us if you have questions or need, and everyone have a great night.